Okay, we're here with Jeremy Olstyn, who made the film Strong from Detroit. So, Jeremy, for folks who haven't had a chance to see the film, can you give them a little bit of the 30-second elevator pitch?
Sure. Strong from Detroit is about a student in a Detroit suburban high school that his father, through a series of unfortunate events, loses his job, loses their apartment, and he's faced with the prospect of going back to Detroit public schools. And if you look at the media anywhere right now, it's not a good scene right now in Detroit, especially for school students. So he wants to continue going to the suburban school, which right now that's technically illegal because it's outside of the county in which he resides. So that's the nature of the film.
So how'd you get involved with this?
Actually, I was working on an MFA in visual cinema, and we had the option at a certain point to select narrative or documentary. You know, I think I'm more interested in narrative actually, but I want to know how to tell a good story. I mean, ultimately that's why I got into film in the first place. And I had this idea that, well, doing a documentary surely is easier because you don't have to find the actors and quite as much crew and work with schedules. And it was a rude awakening. It's probably more work. It certainly takes more time.
Well, you can't really write the story. The story has to come to you. And you had such a strong story, which is great. And not only did you have the one student, but you had all those other voices in the film supporting his voice and just telling the story that you wanted to tell. It's a really, really strong subject. Great name for it, for sure, right?
Yeah, and I think I lucked out too. I mean, I already knew Marcellus, and I started kind of doing my version of a casting call for someone that was in that situation where they were coming to a suburban school under the guise of, living with an aunt or a grandma, and a lot of students were doing this. And in fact, they were living in Detroit proper, but nobody wanted to talk to me about it. Right. Because there's a risk of exposure, and there was a risk of exposure with Marcellus, but he was just and is a really brave and intelligent young man, and we kind of hit it off. So I think I lucked out.
So how's the reception for the film?
It's been pretty good. This is the first festival that's come up on the circuit in terms of time when we can actually start screening films. But I'm optimistic that it will screen elsewhere. I'm really excited to see what people in Port Huron think about it. I think it'll play better to a Michigan audience than it would, say, in LA. And it's not that the story isn't understandable to somebody in LA, but I mean, my intention was to make it a local story, right? To focus on characters, not just Marcellus, but the principals that I interview and the other students, and just kind of the feel that this is the place that we live, and the place that I live. And even though I don't live in Detroit proper, when somebody asks, "Oh, where are you from?" You always say Detroit. What does that really mean to be a Detroiter right now today? And I think people in Michigan, certainly with the state of our economy and what's going on the educational scene as well, can really appreciate what is happening in Detroit. Because there's a chilling effect, I think, in public education, specifically in the state of Michigan. But I don't want to go on about that because part of my goal is to not make a boring film. If you talk too much about education, glazed eyes.
I think that you succeeded. You know what to put in. It seemed like you knew what to leave out. Were there any nuggets that you wanted to keep in that you eventually said, this really doesn't move the story forward, I need to leave this up?
Yes, yeah. One element is specifically, and I put this on the special features, which doesn't go to the film festivals, but I did do a small distribution so far of about 100 copies of the DVD. And anyway, so I go out and I've got this plan to shoot this. There's this great poet, local poet, and she's going to college now, but she was in the situation where she was living in the city of Detroit, and the schools are closing. So she does this amazing poem where she kind of uses names of schools in Detroit and substitutes those for adjectives and adverbs and verbs in her poem. So if you don't know Detroit and the schools and the names of the schools, you might not get it at first.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out early in the morning. I'm going to get, you know, magic time, and I'm going to have this golden light falling on her as she does this poem. And it's like the cloudiest fucking day ever. And it's fog. I mean, the cloud comes down and it's just fog. So instead, it changed it, but it's this just moment of brilliance, and she does this like movement with the camera, and it's so great. But I couldn't put it in film because it really didn't move the story forward. It wasn't about Marcellus, and that one just take my heart out and step on it. But,
so if folks want to keep up with you and the film and see where else it's screening, where could they go?
JeremyOlstyn.com, and my last name is Olstyn. So yeah, the website, and it's very basic because I'm a filmmaker and not a voice designer.
Spending more time working on films, which is great. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.